watching The Producer's Room, a streaming web series featuring the creators behind the hit songs of today's music industry. Songwriters, music producers, and artists discuss their creative process as well as examining current issues and technologies in today's rapidly changing music business. Your host is producer, songwriter, and educator Dave Tuff. Welcome to The Producer's Room.
Well, we're in the control room at Sound House, which is the home studio, my home studio, and I'm sitting next to my buddy and friend and engineer for 32 years that goes back to Los Angeles, Terry Christian. And Terry's been invaluable to me throughout this whole period of time, 3 decades plus. I met him at a Jermaine Jackson session back in the 80s. And Terry's from the Bay Area. Why don't you tell him a little bit about how you got to L.A. from Oakland?
Well, I grew up in the Bay Area, and as a young man in my early 20s, I wanted to, learn how to make records. And so I did what I could up in the Bay Area. Relocated to L.A. and got my first job at Sunset Sound in L.A. They're still around and still cranking out tons of great records. I worked there for a few years before I went independent. Shortly thereafter, I ran into Omar. Actually, I got an emergency phone call one time from the studio right around the corner from my house saying, "Can you sub for a weekend, do a session?" And I said, "Well, tell me about the session." They said, "Well, it's Jermaine Jackson, Michael Omartian's producing." So I said, "Yeah, I'll be there." Michael had, had a great reputation, and but I had never met him before. So I subbed that weekend, and we've been doing just about everything together ever since.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
So we both ended up in L.A., and that's where we met each other. And then, like I said earlier, we moved here in '93 with our families to Nashville because there were so many great things going on here.
We did about 8 years together in L.A.
Oh, yeah.
Before we moved to Nashville.
That's right. That's right. So right now, I wanted to kind of bring up a track that we've been working on with a girl named Cherish Lee. And what I wanted to specifically address was how something can change or metamorphosize. Metamorphosize? Is that a word?
Your guess is as good as mine.
Whatever it is. Well, metamorphosize, whatever it is. Change from your original intent of a session. And what we did is there's a song called Scream that when I received the demo was a very stripped down demo with an acoustic guitar, Cherish's voice, a little bit of piano, and then when the chorus came in, it implied drums, but it was just merely a little bass drum hit. And so what we did is we went into the studio with a traditional rhythm section, guitar, bass, drums, and keyboards, and we kind of approached it like you would a normal rhythm section, but once we finished and brought it back to my house, we went, you know what, it's lost something in the translation. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to play, should we play the song first as we've got it and then maybe go back to where we started, or should we do the opposite?
I don't know.
All right, well, let's start with kind of
I can play it whatever you want.
Let's play it where it's at right now. Well, this is where it's been amended, and I hope you can hear somewhat of what's going on. But I'll explain. The first verse is up to the very first chorus where she says scream. That's all acoustic guitars and stripped down. But what we did originally was when the first chorus came in, we added a lot of drums playing tom-toms and stuff, which you won't hear here. This is what we've changed it to. So we'll go ahead and play it up to the first chorus, through the first chorus.
Shadows crawling up the wall. I know them well, I name them all. Fear, doubt, hate, and loss. Like monsters underneath my bed, I try my best to keep them hid. I fight them back like a kid. never told, the past that just won't let me go. I play the victim in my own picture show. When life comes down on you, you get mad, you get strong, you clench your fist, take the hit, catch your breath, and let it all out. And scream, shout at the silence, drown out the violence with all that's in me. And scream, shake all the walls down, let them all fall down around me. And I know I will make it through, but right now all I can do is scream.
We're gonna start. I'm gonna start where we started using real drums, which was in the first chorus, which isn't as easy to hear. I want to do a comparison. This is the second verse now, where we kept the drum. We brought the set in at the second verse. So here we go.
So I'm playing with the drum set.
Yeah, with the drum set.
And okay.
The truth I wish I never told, the past that just won't let me go. I play the victim in my own picture show. When life comes down on you, you get mad, you get strong, you clench your fist, take the hit, catch your breath, and let it all out. And scream, shout at the silence.
So what happened, in my opinion, was it shut the whole track down because it confined it to boom, dun, dun, bop, dun, 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 and it wasn't. It lost the air in the track. What I'd like for you to do, if you want to take a little break, I want you to hear the elements that make up that first chorus. So why don't you leave the backwards guitar in and just do the percussion elements and her voice. Okay, so now you're going to hear the first chorus with the new elements, which is I used a concert bass drum, I used a MIDI kick that's given on every beat, boom, 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 boom. It's doing that, and then I'm using some JP8, these real fast little things going on. Is that in there? The JP8s?
That's all this stuff.
All right. Okay. Now bring her vocal in as we go into it, and then take it out.
Take a deep breath.
So the difference is we orchestrated it like a cinematic thing as opposed to the drums going boom, 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 crack, boom, 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 boom. And it gives it a little more of a wide open feel to it. And just to show you kind of, I mean, I don't know how the audio is with this one microphone sitting in the middle of the room, but just to say that sometimes you come out of a session thinking, man, we got it, and then you play it and you go, wow, it wasn't what we expected. But thank God we have all this stuff at our disposal, which we do today, to kind of amend and change, you know. So we made it more cinematic as opposed to rhythm section.
And can we buy this yet? This
Not yet, I don't think
This
so.
is still in
It's still in
production.
production.
production, all right.
Yeah. Cherish Lee.
so-
You can go to our website,
Terry,
Cherish Lee.
Can we talk a little bit about the engineering too?
Sure.
The
Yes.
engineering side of stuff.
Sure.
So you guys, what you said, you went to a studio to cut this
Yeah, went to Ocean Way B.
Ocean Way B, and everything's very pristine in the sound. Can you tell us? I mean, obviously you can't list every mic, but what was your basic tracking setup, microphone wise, on maybe some key instruments? Like the acoustics sounded real clean and nice.
The acoustics.
We did this. Should we start it like we're starting something?
Yeah, you can start it. Go ahead.
Okay, Terry. I know that people would be curious to know some of the miking that was going down.
Mm-hmm.
I know that this is one of those cases where Tom Hemby brought a drive
Yeah.
with acoustics and some of the backwards guitars on it. They were already pre-mic'd, so we don't know what he basically
That's right.
used.
That's right. And what happened was Michael gave Tom Hemby, the guitar player, the arrangement. They talked it through, I guess.
I did it in the MIDI sphere.
Okay. So you did a MIDI mock-up of it. Tom took that file, went to his home studio. He pre-recorded guitars and brought those to the session. And there were a few of them. There was an acoustic doubled, I believe, a 12-string electric, something else too. So he brought those to the session where we had the band.
Right.
So there wasn't really a lot of room to change anything, when we got there.
Yeah. With him.
With him.
Yeah.
Right.
With him.
And then other than that, we had, miking on the
piano.
drums was pretty straight ahead. I forget what it was. Probably D112 on the bass drum, snares, top and bottom, had Shure SM57s, 421s on the toms. KM84 on the hat. Overheads, I believe, was a pair of M49s. Something in the room, I don't really remember what it was. Some kind of a stereo room. On the piano, acoustic piano, I tend to use, I like the Neumann M149s, the newer version of the M49. And Michael has a pair of those. I brought those to the session to use on piano. I use that on Michael's piano all the time. Bass we did direct and we mic'd also with a U47 FET. I don't think I'm forgetting anything.
Mm-hmm.
A vocal, we used a vintage Neumann U47.
So, Terry, now that you have everything back here, are you guys doing any overdubs? Obviously, Michael added some stuff.
Michael added a lot of stuff. You see, what happened, we got this back here from the studio, and Cherish kept saying, will we be able to add a lot of echo to the drums?
Yeah.
To make it big. And so I said, sure, we can add more. I found myself adding so much echo that it wasn't really doing anything. And she kept saying, can we add a lot of echo? She kept kind of hitting it. Then I realized it isn't echo. That's not really what she wants. What she wanted was a more contemporary synth kind of thing. And she played us, she kept referring to, I forget what it was, but there was one artist she liked a lot.
Cam. Something about California.
Yeah, I think the song was California. She liked the production on that particular record. And so we listened to it, and that's what they were doing. They were doing a lot of MIDI sequencing and big kind of sounds out of that, and not really a traditional drum kit. Mm-hmm. So that's when Michael kind of went back to square one and programmed the tune around that to make it more of like a contemporary pop record sound. He said cinematic, and so in a way, yeah, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about the mix process. I know you look like you're kind of mixing as you're going, adding some plugins, and I don't expect you to go through every plugin, but are there a few plugins that's kind of like you're do without plugins?
Not right now.
Okay.
See, what happened was between the time we cut this and the time we got into mixing, we updated the whole studio. We went from running an old Pro Tools 8 with an old Mac G5, not even a Mac Pro, but the old G5, and we just updated everything, which means I lost all the plugins that we used to use. I'm without any go-to plugs right now, so I'm kind of discovering now on the fly what I need with a few suggestions along the way, but I do tend to do a few things when I mix, and that is I like to have a few go-to EQs and go-to compression. What I'm liking right now, EQ-wise, is this Fabfilter Pro-Q 2, which I think is wonderful. It's new. It shows a lot. It'll show your waveform here of your audio, so you can see if you're getting too much or too little of something, and you can boost or cut. On this one, I'm getting a lot of low end, so you can see I brought this down. I can come up or down with that particular frequency. And if I want to get more of this high end here, I can just raise that right above where I see this. So it gives you a lot of flexibility visually as well as, audibly. And so I've kind of fallen in love with that EQ. I do tend to also, when I mix, I do go through some mastering software as well. And I'm mastering through this guy here, which is this Ozone 7.
That Ozone 7 is cool.
And I'm just kind of learning this guy too, but it's a real nice little setup that I like to mix through. It just kind of pushes everything forward, gives a little bit of a mastering sound to the mix as we're going. I'm not a total control freak that way, but I don't want to give all the control to the mastering engineer. And so I like to get an idea what's happening or what I'm able to do with mastering software before I hand it over to a mastering engineer. And that way I can lock in on a few things that I really like.
I also noticed, we probably can't see them on camera, but you guys have some SPL mix streams. Are you breaking everything out, or are you mixing all in the box now?
I'm mixing through 3 SPL mix streams. Each of them is 16 input, 2 output. They're daisy chained together, so it's essentially like a 48 input console. I can operate Pro Tools as though I'm mixing in the box, but I have a lot of different outputs, so everything is being summed analog. To me, it really opens the mix up in a way that you can't do in the box. Even though I know in the box is getting quite a bit better than it was even 5 years ago, I still don't think you can beat analog summing.
And I noticed those have insert slots. Are you using any outboard at all?
I am. I don't typically do outboard on the individual channels, but I do run through one of the SSL X Logic compressors, which I have inserted in all of our analog mixes.
So one last question for you, unless you guys want to talk about anything else. You guys have had such a long-running partnership together. Can you tell us a little bit about working with Omar and, how I guess the musical side informs the technical side of what you're doing, either arrangement-wise or, what kind of techniques you guys have developed as you've gone along in your years together? I know that's a deep question.
Yeah, that's kind of a good question. I think that in a way we make a pretty good team, although Omar's a complete musician. He's not what I would call technically inclined, although he is able to do incredible things in the MIDI domain using, whatever he's using back there.
Digital performer.
And although I've been engineering a long time, I don't necessarily consider myself a technical guy, which is, I think, unusual for an engineer. I tend to work more with my ears than I do with gear.
Yep.
I think you can really make a good record with just about anything. And I think Michael and I kind of, in a way, we kind of share that point of view on things. I'm able to pick up where he can't deliver, and I, of course, can't deliver what he delivers, if that makes any sense. But I think I'm pretty good at getting in his head and knowing what he wants to hear and being able to give it to him. And I also think that we've been able to we've been very fortunate to be able to work in a lot of different genres. Yeah. Whether it be early on, we started in doing R&B and pop music and some rock stuff, and we're transitioning now into some film and television work. And I think that it's been nice to have come up the way I did at Sunset, where every day I was doing something different. One day I would start doing a Julio Iglesias session and into a Prince session that night, and then the next day doing a Godfather pizza commercial and then a TV show or something. And I think Omar did a lot of that same stuff. We were working in a lot of different genres. And so it's nice today to be able to really engineer just about anything that's thrown at us. And I think that's kind of worked a lot in our favor as a partnership.
The thing about Terry, which I really like, is that I don't necessarily have to know anything about what's going on up here. Now, if he's gone on vacation or he's not around, and someone asks me, I need something, I'm lost. I can't do this. But what I like about T is that he'll spend a lot of time in his spare time listening to what's going on radio, reading a publication, some sort of a mix magazine or something like that. And if I ask him about something, he says, I heard a thing and it's a really cool sound. We'll experiment a little bit with those kind of sounds. They're contemporary. Also, if I say, hey, I love Ringo's drums on da-da, he'll know exactly what it was that achieved that sound. So he can access back in the archives of how something was treated, or have the knowledge of how George Harrison might have played the particular guitar, what mic it was on. I mean, he says he's not technical, but in a lot of ways, he's stored a lot of information. And we both have very much the same taste with the British invasion. We were both captivated by the British invasion. Some of the Northern California music. I said earlier that my favorite music is bands, and I think Terry is the same way. Mm-hmm. We like bands. And so the dynamic of musicians working with each other, the dynamic of not necessarily going with what a conventional studio sound, but something a little more strange, a little more treated a little differently, letting mistakes go, don't always clean everything up. I think one of the problems with today's music is everything's auto-tuned to death. Yeah, you have great singers, but they're flawless because you have the technology to make them flawless, which takes the humanity out of things. Sierra Black, which was another artist we used, which is unusual. We did 4 songs with her a couple months ago. I think we tuned, 2 notes?
Something like that, yeah. Very little.
And she did 3 takes. I don't think she did any more than 3 takes on the thing, did she? Except for Jealous, she did a little bit more. She did this Torch ballad, which would expose anything that would be wrong. But you're dealing with people, you go, there is no reason why we need to make it so pristine that there's no humanity in it. So with her, I think we tuned 2 or 3 notes out of 4 songs. Mm-hmm. And that's because we didn't have her here. She went back to Las Vegas. Otherwise, we'd have gone, will you please sing that note again? But she wasn't here to do it. So, I mean, I think there's as much greatness in imperfection as there is perfection, and I think it's kind of getting lost because we have, it's like what Terry was with the EQs. I mean, how many programs are there for mastering? How many programs are there for EQ? How many different things are for doing this and doing that? The bottom line is if you got an engineer who doesn't have ears, it doesn't mean anything. And you get ears by, going in the studio. Who was it? Prince's local engineer called you, said he's never cut a rhythm
Well,
section.
That was a long time ago.
But seriously.
No, he called and said, can you tell me how to mic a drum kit?
Yeah, because he'd always just plugged into a Roger Lynn drum machine, and that was the rhythm section. And he called Terry and said, I'm working with Prince, I've never engineered a drum set. And you're going, wow. Are you kidding me? It's just so bizarre. That's what you want to do, and now you're working with Prince, who's already successful, and you still don't know how to. Everybody discovers at a certain pace, but it means that his background was, I don't really need that because everybody's doing it this way.
Cool. One last question. I don't know if you are for hire nowadays, but how can they get a hold of you guys, your production team? Through your website? Or?
Yeah, I mean, you can access me through my internet, which should be the info.
Well, it'll be michaelomartian.com.
Yeah, michaelomartian.com.
You get all the information right there.
And then Terry is
terrychristian.com.
Yeah.
That makes it easy. Well, thanks so much, guys, for being on the producers.
Oh, this was fun. It was a lot of fun.
We'll come back and visit you again.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Thanks a lot,
Thank
Dave.
you.
Thanks, Dave.
Like monsters underneath my bed, I try